I feel something is brewing and something's about to explode. It was also influenced by Blake Lively's narrative.
Blake Lively just exposed herself in the most unexpected way. And honestly, it's almost impressive.
She has a relationship with this writer, Megan Twohey, and the team.
After repeatedly insisting she had no involvement with that bombshell New York Times article from December 2020, Blake finally admitted she was the source all along. With Brian Friedman's damning legal complaint expected to drop on June 23, Blake saw the storm coming and decided to out herself before it destroyed her completely.
And she told me, referring to Blake Lively, that Blake Lively told her something, which is pretty new information.
Blake Lively just gave a confession so theatrical it deserves an award. The Hollywood darling has crumbled, publicly and dramatically. In what can only be described as a legal self-immolation, Blake confessed to the very thing she had been denying for months. She gave that New York Times interview. It's like watching a masterclass in self-sabotage.
Remember the journalist who wrote, "We can bury anyone inside a Hollywood smear machine," about the alleged smear campaign against Blake Lively and how traumatized she was for all the SH that was going on.
Let's go back to the infamous New York Times article from December 2024. In a Hollywood where reputations can be dismantled overnight, this article positioned Blake as the ultimate victim, a bright star dimmed by a ruthless entertainment industry. It claimed she faced mistreatment on the set of It Ends With Us, and was the target of a smear campaign orchestrated by Justin Baldoni and his team. It was heart-tugging, emotional, and perfectly tailored to support Blake's polished image.
They never revealed anywhere that they actually based part of that article on interviews that they did with Blake Lively. There's nothing in that article that reveals that they actually spoke to her.
But here's where the narrative started to crack. Blake firmly denied any involvement in the article's creation. She insisted for months that the journalists pieced it all together on their own, using that story to shield herself and reinforce her role as a victim. The New York Times never disputed it.
And she told me, referring to Blake Lively, that Blake Lively told her something, which is pretty new information here because New York Times never said that they actually interviewed Blake Lively for that story.
Yesterday, however, Blake's entire narrative fell apart. In a courtroom packed with attention, she finally admitted, "Yes, I gave them the interview." The silence that followed was jarring, an audible realization from everyone who believed her.
Because they said that they only based their reporting on the CRD complaint, but Twohey here actually admitted that Blake Lively was a source.
This wasn't a minor misstep, it was a full-blown collapse of Blake's constructed persona. The same actress who had posed as a symbol of honesty and perseverance had actually authored her own storyline. She handed over the exact details to the New York Times that she claimed were uncovered independently. And let's not ignore the fact, that article wasn't just emotional, it was a strategic weapon aimed directly at Justin Baldoni.
So Blake Lively is saying here that she never has had plans to go public with her accusations against Justin Baldoni, and it wasn't really that bad.
Blake's admission didn't just bruise her credibility, it annihilated it. How can you trust someone who lied about lying? The drama has shifted from It Ends With Us to It Ends With Blake. And frankly, it's one of the most shocking twists Hollywood's seen in a long time. The once-adored sweetheart is now a glaring example of self-destruction.
You know, I spoke up because I wanted to address it, and I thought that I had, and I never had any intention of discussing this or going public with my accusations.
Her so-called innocence was always Blake's biggest asset, a flawless image that could charm critics and enchant fans. But here's the hard truth, that innocence was just another PR illusion. The moment she weaponized her wholesome persona to launch a destructive media campaign, she gave up the only thing that made her untouchable. And now it's gone, vanishing like a balloon at a birthday party.
Well, this gives Justin Baldoni's legal team new arguments that New York Times article wasn't just based on facts.
Now enter Brian Friedman, the high-powered attorney representing Justin Baldoni. He's been quietly preparing an amended legal complaint, reportedly airtight and razor-sharp, set to drop on June 23. Blake read the writing on the wall and chose to take herself down before his lawsuit could finish the job.
So, to watch what happened next and to experience what she now is alleging was the complete campaign of retaliation felt in many ways much more sinister than the underlying misconduct.
Blake's confession wasn't a brave moment of honesty, it was raw panic. With Friedman's case looming like a guillotine, she knew her house of lies was seconds from collapse. This wasn't a heartfelt apology. It was a frantic attempt to get ahead of a story she could no longer spin. And let's face it, it wasn't even a convincing one.
So in Justin Baldoni's lawsuit, he accuses Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively of colluding with the New York Times. And I think explicitly it says for months, that they were plotting with the New York Times for months to smear him.
Friedman's amended complaint isn't some hastily written filing. Sources say he spent weeks gathering ironclad evidence, texts, emails, timelines, and connecting every dot. His reputation as a relentless legal force precedes him, and he's not about to let Blake slip away with a sob story. Word is, the complaint will hit where it hurts the most, revealing every manipulated detail.
Maximum Effort Productions. This is the same production company, the same marketing company of Ryan Reynolds. We all have heard of Maximum Effort Productions. We've heard of them.
Why the sudden reversal? Simple, Blake's terrified. Friedman's complaint won't just punch holes in her narrative, it'll shred it completely. She realized that once Monday hits, her web of lies will be laid bare. So instead of waiting for the legal hammer to drop, she decided to fall on her own sword. But let's be honest, this isn't courage, it's self-preservation in its most desperate form.
There's something in that amended complaint that, oh my God, I can't wait to read.
And so here we are, days away from the legal explosion Blake tried to dodge. Friedman's filing is expected to be a clinic in legal accountability, while Blake's confession is already being dismissed as hollow damage control. The former queen of Hollywood charm is now center stage in a slow-motion collapse, and the audience isn't looking away.
When she first came out with all this, I went, what an asshole he is, you know? And
Everyone did.
As a daddy girl, you know, a girl daddy, I thought, oh my God.
Girl dad.
I was really angry.
Consider this. The notion that America's sweetheart could deliberately plot to ruin Justin Baldoni's career and undermine It Ends With Us is both bold and unsettling. We're not talking about petty drama or gossip. Allegedly, Blake and her publicist Leslie Sloan planted calculated stories across major outlets. Not rumors, but orchestrated character attacks.
It looks like Justin Baldoni may have a very strong case against the New York Times. You're not going to believe this, okay? This pertains to data.
Justin's reputation was trashed. He was painted as domineering and even predatory. And it wasn't just his image on the line. His film, the result of years of effort, was collateral damage in Blake's strategy. By August 2024, months before Blake's so-called retaliation lawsuit, negative stories about Justin were flooding the media. Coincidence? Not likely.
Blake Lively is not a good person, that she has proven herself not to be a kind person, okay?
The Hollywood actress Blake Lively has filed a legal complaint against her It Ends With Us co-star Justin Baldoni, alleging sexual harassment and a campaign to destroy her reputation.
Let's talk about that lawsuit, the so-called smear campaign that Blake herself set in motion. In November 2024, she filed against Justin Baldoni's team for leaking confidential information. Dramatic, sure, but oddly, there was no mention of the alleged sexual harassment that supposedly sparked all this. It's like reporting a robbery but forgetting to list what was stolen.
She sees herself as Khaleesi from Game of Thrones, Mother of Dragons.
Instead, Blake zeroed in on the Vans and ink subpoena, fighting hard to access texts and emails that she claimed would prove Justin's team was targeting her. But guess what? The records ended up exposing Blake's contradictions. The smear campaign? Negative press about Justin started surfacing on August 25th, 9 days before PR specialist Melissa Nathan even joined his team. So who was pulling the strings?
A man being fully castrated by a woman who is using toxic feminism.
Now we get to Blake's courtroom breakdown. For months, she claimed she didn't give the Times anything, that reporters just figured it out. But yesterday, She finally admitted to giving that interview. The woman known for playing wholesome, innocent roles just confessed to a lie so massive, it felt like a plot twist ripped from one of her own movies.
Taylor Swift is declaring, I am nobody's dragon, girl. I am not your dragon. I've stayed quiet. I've stayed away. But girl, now that I'm getting dragged in this, you're about to get run over.
And that's when it all unraveled. Witnesses said Blake appeared visibly shaken, her voice cracking as she tried to explain away the misunderstanding. But let's be real, no one forgets doing an interview with the New York Times. That's like forgetting you starred in the movie you're promoting.
So negative press swirled around her during this whole, like a month, right? Later she would describe this as though it was the pile-on against Trump. Honestly, it's like most of us, especially in Republican politics or the news, this is called Tuesday for us.
What made it worse was how clearly self-serving her actions became. When asked about the timing of her claims against Baldoni, her answers crumbled. Blake admitted her real concern wasn't about harassment, it was about protecting her image. This from a woman who claimed to be a champion for survivors. The truth? It was about PR, not justice.
So basically what she's saying here is what Blake Lively did to herself by behaving the way she did is much worse than what she's accusing Justin Baldoni of doing to her.
The most revealing moment came when the judge asked for evidence. Blake's response? Vague anecdotes and unverified claims. No solid proof. No documentation. Just hearsay, and in a court of law, that simply doesn't cut it.
Blake Lively is continuing her delusional path forward, thinking that somehow she can get out of this lawsuit if she has just enough of the right PR and Hollywood friends on her side.
Blake's breakdown wasn't just personal, it was public. For years, she used her likability and fame to steer public perception. But now, the story's out of her hands. The Hollywood sweetheart has been dethroned, and everyone's asking, was this who she always was, or is this the fallout from unchecked power?
We've got these messages about, this long friendship between these two girls, and she knows the real Taylor.
Let's talk about how Blake used her star power. She wasn't just a Hollywood favorite, she was a dominant force. But instead of using her influence responsibly, she bulldozed over anyone in her way. From reporters to subreddit moderators, no one was safe. Even online forums like the It Ends With Us subreddit were reportedly censored to suppress criticism.
I think that's right. I think, Blake was threatening, months before the New York Times thing happened. She was constantly threatening different things. At one point she's threatening, I'm not going to promote this movie if I don't get my way on this.
And don't forget the film's press tour, the real beginning of her unraveling. While promoting a movie about domestic abuse, Blake was simultaneously pushing her alcoholic beverage brand, Betty Booze. One anchor even opened a can on air during a serious segment. Things hit rock bottom when Blake hosted a premiere party featuring cocktails named after abusive characters. Fans were outraged, and rightfully so.
Yeah, I think we've noticed over the past couple of weeks even there have been a few clips that have come out of the woodwork essentially about Ryan that sleuths have found with some kind of problematic moments. And then there's also been the whole kid pool controversy, which definitely doesn't make him look great either.
And now? Blake Lively's world is falling apart faster than a poorly written script. Word is, her personal life is crumbling too. Rumors suggest Ryan Reynolds, once her solid foundation, may be preparing to leave. Yes, that Ryan Reynolds, the guy everyone thought would stick by her no matter what.
Now here Friedman is quoted in TMZ. Let's look at what he said. Mr. Reynolds' exploitation of his enormous power in Hollywood continues, this time arrogantly asking to be dismissed from the case despite his publicly documented involvement, extending far beyond just being a supportive spouse.
Here's why it's not that surprising. Ryan has built his brand on humor, humility, and relatability. Meanwhile, Blake has been engulfed in one controversy after another. From lawsuits to tone-deaf PR, it's been chaos, and Ryan's image can't afford to be dragged down.
What a manipulative, lying little twerp she is. I cannot stand her for this.
Insiders say the strain behind the scenes has been building. Ryan reportedly tried to support her during the drama, but after Blake's courtroom confession, he may have hit his limit. He's now spending more time on solo work and keeping the kids out of the spotlight.
It's just a joke. You don't get it. You're thin-skinned if you're upset about it. That is how insane this is.
Ryan's career is booming. His production company is thriving, his movies are blockbusters, and his image is golden. But the baggage that comes with defending Blake? It's starting to cost him. He values authenticity, and Blake's actions have made her look manipulative and out of touch.
I cannot get into the layers of how that is exactly how bullies operate. If you've ever dealt with a bully, if you've ever seen bullying.
The final straw? Alleged fights at home. Friends say Ryan has been confronting Blake about how her actions are hurting their family. The sweet, Instagram-ready banter they were known for? It's reportedly been replaced with tension and regret. He's now said to be weighing his options.
So Ryan Reynolds basically admitted that he'd been calling Baldoni a predator.
If Ryan leaves, it's more than just celebrity gossip, it's a seismic shift. The woman who once had everything, career, family, public admiration, is watching it all slip away. Whether Ryan walks or not, the cracks in their relationship are obvious now, and just as visible as the holes in Blake's public narrative.
Blake Lively is so stuck playing checkers and trying to make up lost time and justify all this nonsense. And, oh yeah, that was really a win for us. Girl. Anybody who's paying attention knows you're getting destroyed.
Blake Lively has gone from beloved icon to warning story. Her attempt to control the public's perception has completely backfired. From media manipulation to subreddit censorship, her every move screams desperation.
It's just deranged. It's nonsensical. Like, fire the whole PR team. It's dumb.
The problem with desperate tactics? They never last. Instead of sympathy, Blake's earned backlash from fans, industry insiders, and even advocacy groups. She had it all, but her obsession with control and refusal to own up to her missteps have made her an outcast. Her career is shaky, her support system is fading, and her reputation may never fully recover.